Hello, how's it going? Welcome to Trip Boomers Tech-Bodge Emporium. In this one, guys, we're going to be taking a look at this 5070 Ti, and we're going to have a look at how it handles this path tracing mode in Doom Dark Ages. So, going through the settings, we're using DLAA, reflex is on and boosted, motion blur and stuff is off. I've got all of the path tracing on, and everything's ultra nightmare. It's maxed out. I've even got directional occlusion because now path tracing is here. That makes a difference. So that for the better. So normally I would have that off, but with path tracing, it needs to be on. It needs to be on. We're going to go through this, we're going to have a look at it, I'm going to change some stuff up, I'm going to basically make the adjustments that I've made to the way I am going to complete the finish playing the game with, and whether I'm going to be using the path tracing or not, because it is intensive. Just in case there was any settings, I don't think I was. Okay guys, I'll just quickly show you the system. I'm using a 5070 Ti from Gainward. It's a Phoenix flavor. I do have all my ROPs. I am pairing that with a 12900KS with 32 gigs of DDR4, and that's running at 4200 megahertz CL18. And over on MSI Afterburner, I am manually overclocking the card because I can't help myself. Plus, you know, Gainward says that this is a golden sample, so it can do a little bit. So all I've done is I've thrown just over a gigahertz on the memory, which sounds like a big amount, but in general a percentage of its speed, because you know it runs at 1400, 14,000, is it? Oh, whatever the weather, it runs at like 14 gig a second. So it's not that big of an overclock. It's like sort of like 8% or something. And then on the core, it's just an extra 250, 350 megahertz. It's hard to give you an exact score because it's a curve that I've created. But it's around about 300, a little bit more sometimes, a little bit less. It alters, but it's around 300 megahertz. So yeah, should we get into Doom? Yeah, we'll have a look at this path tracing. Right guys, we are in. We're getting 37s, 36s, but I have to say, it's all very consistent 30. Like, I mean, yeah, we've had a dips into 26 there, but yeah. We definitely will need a little assistance for this path tracing to be sort of like a viable choice. Remember this plays on native 1440p at about 80 to 100 FPS. This is a little bit jarring with 30 FPS. I wouldn't want to play the game with 30 FPS. Like, the game plays super smooth. That frame time being as flat as it is does help massively. But let's get quality DLSS. Had some quality DLSS. You'll notice the sharpening set to 475. That is where with quality DLSS on this game now, because they've took away DLSS sharpening, so it's just the game sharpening now. So if you sharpen the game up a little bit at that lower resolution that it's using, it'll make it a little easier for it to upscale. And I found that 4.75 literally is like the little sweet spot. So that's what I would recommend with quality. So we're gonna come back out here and see what we end up with. So we're at 55s. So So if we're, I'm going to say this now, that if we're at 55s at this bit here, most of the game's going to be at about 70s, 80s. Between 60 and 80. We're going to be 60 plus for most of the time. Which is alright. And quality with that little extra bit of sharpening, actually, it doesn't look miles away from native 1440p. There's something about balanced DLSS that I don't know. It just didn't seem to scale right, or it's just too much of a low resolution. Like, I will say that one thing I have noticed is that some of the cutscenes when you're using DLSS, some of the cutscenes, part of it just can like show up in that lower resolution just a bit. I have noticed that. But other than that, like, to be fair, like, this game plays really well at this sort of frame rate, mostly 60s with dips into the 50s. It does play well with this sort of frame rate. However, right, we're going to take a look at the dreaded FG. Right, let me hold on. Right, let me pull up the where are you? There it is. Right, so with DLSS quality, we're getting latency of like 36s, 38s, probably up into the 40s there, yeah. So we'll keep that. We'll keep the latency showing, so that because obviously it's part of the issue. However, I will say that I have tested this, and what I stated in the Call of Duty video, which was just 2 times FG, 2 times FG in Call of Duty, it feels smooth. Like, your mouse movements feels responsive and smooth, but it looks like the difference between an IPS and a VA in the way that it handles motion and stuff. In this game, I don't really get that. So that 2 times FG is fine. Like, let me see if I can pull up the. It always turns itself off. I think I have to turn it off and then turn it. No. Oh shit! Was not paying attention. Let me. Right, so we're getting up into the 50s now, but I will say, you don't feel it. You don't. Like, it doesn't feel laggy. It doesn't look laggy. You know, it doesn't have that like motion render thing. Now I will, but there is caveats, because if you step that FG up to 4x, now it's like it's back. Like, it feels like it's going to be super responsive and smooth. The latency is minimal in difference of the frames and stuff, but it still does that sort of, yeah. It's like there's a, like, it doesn't handle the motion, you moving and things moving very well, like a VA panel doesn't. It literally like that. So I wouldn't recommend the ×4. Plus, if you look at the frame that's giving us, it's like 160s. Let me just put on X3 now, because this doesn't do that motion thing. And the latency is really close to ×2. It just doesn't. It's super responsive. I use a 165 Hz monitor, so anything up to that, because of the G-Sync and that, is going to be sweet. And yeah, this is super responsive. We're over 120s. Quite often this will jump. It looks great at quality with a little bit of sharpening. It really does. And it's one of those games that path tracing does actually make a pretty visual difference. Like, I've taken to doing Superman jumps like regularly, which is kind of fun. But yeah, everything's super responsive. I'm not having any difficulties dealing with the large crowds. The frame gen is, like, I'm impressed, right? When I tried it on Warzone, not impressed. When I've tried FSR frame gen, yeah, I actually think it works better on Warzone than Nvidia's frame gen does. But it wasn't bad, but ain't nothing special. But this, like, the difference, it visually, I hope that comes through, because obviously quite a lot of you will have played the game. Probably some of you played it through already, because it's kind of a bit of a delayed update, is the path tracing. So quite a few of you will have probably played the game. So hopefully, I'm trying to record this at the best quality I can. So hopefully you get to see what I'm seeing, but it does visually make a big difference to the game. And do you know what? Yeah, I know how intensive path tracing is. And even though I'm not necessarily thinking, oh, I need to be using DLSS and frame gen and stuff on my 5070 Ti, which, to be fair, not necessarily what I should have to do, but I don't have to. Like, this game looks freaking awesome with just the regular RT. It looks great, but if I use a little bit of DLSS and frame gen, my game looks like this, and it makes a marketable difference. Those reflections on the floor, underneath everything, that's all because of that direct occlusion, whilst the path tracing's on. But it doesn't really exist when the path tracing's not on. That's why I don't have that setting on it. It doesn't really make too much of an impact to your frame rate though, whether you use it or not. But yeah, no, the game looks freaking awesome like this. The lighting, it looks ace. Like the reflections, everything's just sort of like live. And as I said, the 3x FG, I wouldn't use 4x. Like that in this game, 4x frame gen was doing the same thing that 2x frame gen was doing in Call of Duty, which is feeling super smooth. Fortunately, obviously, this is starting off with a 60 FPS frame rate, so it's not too bad in the first place. Obviously, there are dips, which is why the latency is where it's at. But I don't feel it in this title. I don't see it. I did when 4X was on though. And that shit just still needs baking, man. But it's playing really well. And I think the game looks absolutely friggin' awesome with these settings. So, like I've said, I won't use DLSS and frame gen unless I actually genuinely get a benefit from it. And like, this is a benefit to me. I hate waiting for shit. Like, I can't be arsed with that whole like waiting for the parry and that. Like, if it happens, it happens. But otherwise, let's just fucking take the motherfuckers out, innit? I love the shield and then a shotgun, just to fucking like that combo. That's fun. And I also like to do the whole jumping Superman. This little Superman jump. Oh, we are blocked in. I wonder what that's for. No. You guys should have stayed at home. But yeah, the rain looks good. The reflections everywhere look good. The lighting looks freaking awesome. Like, and everything looks clean and crisp. You know, I'm not having a problem because of the DLSS quality. Now, as I said, I wouldn't use balanced. I think it at 1440p at least it really does sort of soften it up a bit too much for me. But this is good. Like, at no point does this feel in the slightest bit. Oh, look at the explosions though. I mean, they look freaking awesome. I'm sorry, but yeah. I mean, the explosions looked good anyway, like, but yeah, they look better. They just look better. Oh, where's the fucking... I just jumped on it. That looks ace, man. Yeah, everything's sort of got a little bit more interaction with everything around it, especially anything that's glowing or lit up or any reflections or anything. Like, it's all good. Like. It's all good. Like, I'm quite honestly gonna finish the game with these settings. I never thought I would. I'm not a like huge frame gen fan, to be fair. I've always said, like, the advantage to having multi-frame gen is that it will be there for when I want it to be there. But at this point in time, I've got a 165 Hz monitor, and this game's playing at anywhere between 120 and 165, 170, which is ideal for my monitor. G-Sync's loving it. Everything looks crisp. These guys look as ugly as ever whilst I'm having to friggin' watch. Prick. How dare you make me bleed my own blood. Right. I thought I heard someone. Nope. I'm gonna get hit because I'm grabbing this fucking... What's gonna happen? Oh! That's strange. It usually happens. May as well make the most of these shields whilst we're here. But yeah, no, the game looks freaking awesome. It's playing super smooth. At no point am I like, oh crap, this frame gen's so laggy. Oh, my responses are so laggy. They're not. they're not. They're not at all. It feels super smooth. If anything, it feels smoother than it did without it on. I'm not gonna lie. And as I said, up to X3 on this game, and it's not doing the weird motion rendering thing. It looks friggin' awesome. Absolutely awesome, man. It's sharp as anything. And yeah. So yeah, DLSS quality. If you've got a 5070 Ti, this is how I would recommend you play the game. DLSS quality. Put that game sharpening on 4.75. And yeah, put frame gen on X3. Don't put X4 on. It looks awful. Unless you got a VA panel, then put X4 on, and you probably won't even notice the difference. To be fair, we go kill a few more now. Let me just lock in a little bit. There's quite a few people about. I hate these guys. They're the worst. But we'll get to see. You get to see what how it handles. And even with all this going on, like, the frame rate's still super smooth. Like, the thing is, because that initial frame rate is so flat, yeah, because the frame rate that it's working from is so flat, because it are just friggin' awesome in that sense. 100%. You prick! He moved. Die. Yeah, shout out Ed, man. Why, Ed, can you please do me a favor? Can you show everyone else how to do this? Because no one else seems to be able to make a game that looks this freaking good, yeah? And I'm sorry, I know I'm on a 5070 Ti, right? And I know I'm using frame gen and DLSS, but you have to remember, I'm also using fucking path tracing, which, to be fair, right? I know obviously it's been out a little bit, but to be fair, it is a fairly new thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like the next level of RT. It's so intensive in general, like. So, I don't mind. But it doesn't matter when it's this fucking responsive, yeah? Like, and looks this so... Oh, it's this responsive and looks this fucking good. Right? I don't know what to tell you. I didn't think I would be sat here today telling you, yeah, Doom Dark Ages got a 5070 Ti. Holy shit, 1440p. Yeah, throw on that fucking... I wasted that. Oh well. My bad. You'll get the next one, big guy. You'll get the next one. You blow up. You blow up. Oh, you're getting close. Jesus. Oh, I forgot about that. I think I've killed everyone down here. Right, in the face! In the face! Die, motherfucker! You're ugly. You deserve to die. You stay back. Don't be coming over here. Don't be coming over here, bro. You don't want this heat. You don't want this heat. Don't be coming over here. I'll slap you in the face. Yeah. Yeah, told you. Don't get too close, bro. Light work. Yeah. I'm super impressed with this. I think DLSS quality at 1440p here looks freaking insane. Look at the fur and that. Everything just looks great. FG is working brilliantly. Like, I mean, yeah, okay, there's a little bit of extra latency that's added on because of the FG. I don't notice it. The thing is, this game, because a native, like I don't think I was getting. I think it was running at like 25 to 30 on latency on this card, just native without any path tracing and stuff, if I remember rightly. So, like it's not a huge increase. It's there. I mean, it's almost double, but you don't feel it because of how smooth this game's base FPS is. Regardless of what FPS you're running at, this game just literally holds it within 10 FPS of each other when it's running. And obviously when it gets to less intensive bits, it'll go up. But that baseline FPS is always so flat. So the frame gen just feels great. You don't notice the latency because you're starting with 60 FPS. I know you guys are probably looking at this thinking, oh, but Trip, you're running at 160 odd FPS. Why don't you just drop it down to native and then add the frame gen? No, you could, because you need that sort of like that baseline of 60 FPS to get that feel of the latency gone. You at 30 with a 30 FPS baseline, you would notice it. Like, you would notice it straight away. It'd feel dead laggy and stuff, but because you got that 60 FPS in the first place, you know, there's 60 FPS before it does any of its sort of like FG magic. I mean, don't get me wrong, it doesn't add that much in comparison to what it's doing for me in frame rate and smoothness. It doesn't add that much latency. So this is how I'm going to complete this game. And because why not enjoy the path tracing? I mean, do I need it? No. Am I happy with this as an experience? Yes. And if the frame gen bothers me a little bit, I can always drop it down to 2 times and it won't feel anywhere near as bad, because it has that effect. The less frames you're adding, obviously the more closer to native it's going to feel anyway. But no, this is eye-opening for me when it's come to frame gen. Now, again, 4X, not the one. It's not there. Like, that felt horrible. Well, it didn't feel horrible. It's kind of hard to explain. It didn't feel horrible. It feels smooth and responsive. It looked horrible. Like, it looked clean. The image was clean. Any still image is going to look amazing because it's just using whatever you've got in the first place. But the way it rendered the motion, like I said before, it's like the difference between an IPS panel and a VA panel. And in this particular title, 4X frame gen does exactly that. Exactly that. It adds that sort of like slight. It's like you notice with a VA panel, you notice that the monitor it struggles with that motion on motion. Like one motion, it can handle that. Like, but when you're running and you're then also looking around, it's having to deal with motion on motion, and it doesn't necessarily deal with the one motion super well. I've played on a VA panel for years. Now, don't get me wrong, there are benefits to a VA panel. You get better blacks and you usually have better colors. with a VA panel. So it does have its benefits, but also it has its negatives. But that is what I get from FrameGen. It's the easiest way I can think of explaining it. It's like the difference between an IPS and a VA. And in this title, in my personal opinion, with NVIDIA, especially with a 50 series NVIDIA card, 3X FrameGen is where it's at, because you don't get that motion issue, probably just because of how flat the frame time is on this game. You don't get that motion issue, and which you do with 4X. And I'm on a 165 Hz monitor, and I'm almost saturating my entire monitor, which feels great when I'm moving around. Like, it's snappy, it's responsive, it looks crisp and clean and like clear, and yeah, I'm going to use FrameGen to complete this game. 3X. Who'd have thunk it, eh? Because to be fair, I said that I'm probably not going to use it for a year or so, but for me, if it means that I get to enjoy path tracing, and me personally, I feel like DLSS quality with path tracing on looks better than DLAA with it off. So I'm going to complete it with it on, and FrameGen just makes it smoother and nicer on my system and monitor. So, and doesn't really add that much latency. I don't really notice it. I don't really feel it. It feels great. It looks great. It plays great. So I'm going to use it. But I'd love to hear your opinions on it. I think the game looks freaking great. Hopefully this comes through on here. Yeah, as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Love you, bye. Like and subscribe. Thank you.